Now, I'm very excited to welcome back an amazing handicapper and great friend of the show, and Mr. Brian Edwards from Major Wager and Vegas Insider. You can follow Brian at VegasBEdwards on X. Brian, welcome back to the madness. How is SEC life treating you, my man?
Everything is good. It is a wonderful day to be a Florida Gator, fresh off that win at Alabama. Life's good. I got no complaints. Thanks for having me, Kiev. Let's talk some UFC and some hoops, man. It's been a good year. I'm hoping to keep it rolling.
Ups, you always do. And man, I gotta tell you, if you would have told me, Brian, that both Wisconsin and Florida were going to be top 10 Ken Pom teams at the end of this season coming in March, I would have probably asked you to retire. I mean, like that guy, he's gone. Brian's gone. I don't know what he's thinking. Homerism is taking over, and here we are, freaking Wisconsin and Florida in the top 10. How you like that?
I love it, man. I love it. I thought Florida was going to be good, but I didn't think Florida was going to be great or, great. Get it done in the big boy tournament to be considered great, obviously. But, boy, we're firing on all cylinders right now. 8-1, but straight up and against the spread our last 9. And that Georgia loss is aging a little better because Georgia's playing pretty good ball. And, I like where we're at. And, kudos to your Badgers, man. They got a hell of a team. And I know that guard is not quite as defensive minded as Ryan. But Wisconsin offensive juggernaut these days. That was never. You guys have played games in the 40s and 50s with Bo Ryan and early in the guard era.
That's the common talk about how the Badgers have changed. They're more of an efficient offense. What's funny is they play slow still when they want to. They'll pace it with you if they want to too, but. They rank in the 300s-ish for pace because they play good defense still. Not great defense, as you mentioned. But, when the three's hitting, it's hitting, and they have a little trouble down low. I think that's their weakness, and that's why when they go against the SEC teams, they could get completely bounced. Any of those there's some scary teams out there, really, from all sides. But we got Wisconsin way overperforming their preseason expectations, being around 9 or 10 in the Big Ten. Now they're like 4 or 5, and you can argue that they're actually the second or third best team in the Big Ten, especially if you look at the efficiency rankings, which actually has Wisconsin right behind Michigan State at number 10 in Ken Pom. So I'm very happy. You go in the season just hoping you're making the tournament on a team that you think is down because you lose A.J. Storr, and all of a sudden John Tanji comes from freaking nowhere after an injury year in Missouri when he came first from Colorado State and just looks like a freaking all-star. They have some injuries to Max Klesmit right now, and I'm not too worried about that. He's kind of hot and cold this year. Klesmit can either be really on or really off, just like this team, but just making the tournaments cool. What's funny is that these tournaments are interesting this year, and now the SEC is so strong. Let's be honest, man. Do you want your Gators to play and to win the SEC tournament when the big dance is in front?
Well, I've always said that I don't mind, unless you're on the bubble or something, I don't really mind getting bounced in the tournament just to have fresh legs. But, we have the double bye, so we would only have to play 3 games. Mm-hmm. So, and we're fighting for that number 1 seed. So, look, I think did I tweet that today? I go, it was a reply to a fellow Gator in a tweet. So, it might not have been seen necessarily, but I said, I won't have my feelings hurt if we lose at the buzzer in the semifinals just to have fresher legs, but I definitely want to play at least twice for sure. I want to win the first one.
Yeah. We got to win the first one. Then whatever is kind of what I feel. The Badgers are working towards a number 2 bye. I think they get it. It comes to like head-to-head. Then it goes. Then if everybody's tied, it goes to your record against the whole field of tie. Then then your records against I think the Big Ten. I have to double check everything. Not Big Ten with the whole season. There's some weird tiebreakers there, but I think Wisconsin should get in. Purdue's got a tough game ahead of them. It looks like Maryland's got a pretty solid game, and they beat Wisconsin head-to-head. So unfortunately, Maryland could get the 3 of Michigan State, Michigan. Then I'm thinking Maryland, Wisconsin is what I'm thinking. But the Purdue's a little bit in the way. But if Wisconsin wins and Purdue wins, and Purdue's got to go to Illinois, then I expect Wisconsin to go ahead of Purdue because of that massive win at Mackey Arena. So that would be nice to get the double bye too. And I kind of think that, I mean, like, well, you know what? If you're going to win the Big Ten, when you're Wisconsin, you're going against this strong of a field in the NCAA tournament. This year, I would choose to win the Big Ten. But if I'm a Florida Gator fan, I'm not sure if I want to win it, man. I almost want that, loss, then win. I know UConn just recently won theirs and the tournament last year, so it's not like it's a freaking science. But man, the SEC is so rough and tough this year. How many teams do you think from the SEC get in the big dance, Brian?
Well, the bubble teams are stepping up here the last week or so, and Oklahoma got a huge win over Missouri. And let's see, so Lunardi, not the Joey Brackets is always on top of it. There are a lot of great bracketologists on the Twitter, but he had his updated one had Oklahoma was the first team out. So, the first of the first four out. And if they get in, that would be 13. And if Texas is the third of the first four out. And do they play? And they play each other. Yeah, they play each other Saturday. So right now, I would probably say it's going to be 13, but it could be just 12. But it looks like Arkansas and Georgia are pretty safe. Now, if they both lose Saturday, if they lose their first game in the SEC tournament, they are not going to be feeling – it'll be a long selection Sunday, but they still would maybe get in. But Oklahoma and Texas have definitely got work to do. The winner of their game probably needs to win one more in the SEC tournament and feel safe. The loser is probably thinking they got to win 2 games in Nashville next week.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma is in, and if they lose to Texas, then they have to win 1 or 2 games. And if Texas even beats Oklahoma, then Texas still has to win 1 or 2 games, and it's going to be between those two. And I think it is 13 now for sure. I guess if it's an SEC team that's not going to make it, who is the 14th team there that was kind of on the fringe that's ranked pretty high on KenPom? I think it was
Oklahoma's 13 and Texas is 14, and then 15 and 16 are LSU and South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina. Okay, it's funny. You've seen a little surge from South Carolina recently. I made some money on them the last few games, so it was nice to see that surge from South Carolina. Arkansas, I think, is the one I was thinking, boss. Arkansas. And
right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think Arkansas, 18 and 12. They got a win against Michigan. They have a loss against Illinois and Baylor in the non-con. But, they were kind of fringy. But then all of a sudden, they rip against Missouri. Then that win against Vanderbilt might have kind of helped them get in, right? I'm thinking that was big. It's funny. Arkansas is a tough team to kind of bet on because who knew that Trayvon Brazile was going to, get his head out of his ass finally and step up for Thiero, right? And it's like, I lost a bet on their last game against Vandy. I thought this is a great spot for Vandy. I had line value. And I thought that, Arkansas was just going to pull in Arkansas. And then all of a sudden, the dude just all of a sudden starts playing like he should have been playing the last 4 years, right? It's weird with Calipari teams, but I'm definitely not going to be circling these guys to go far. So I suppose Arkansas would be in that, according to you. And
Joey Brackets has got them in his last 4 buys right now.
Even farther, yeah.
Yeah, one the last of those, so one ahead of the last 4 in.
All right, we'll stick with the lucky number of 13 because I'm with you. I guess 13 as well. And it's just going to be fun watching those SC teams fall, boom, boom, one by one. You see San Diego from 3, High Point from 3, VCU, It's going to be fun. I don't want to face any of those teams, Brian. I'm not going to lie, bro.
I'm on the Tritons tonight. I'm glad you brought the Tritons up. I'm on them tonight. I hate laying big numbers, but I did with them tonight.
Oh, there you go. Well, I love it. All right, sounds good. Well, let's talk a little bit about actually real quick. Laying numbers is good at the end, especially some of these teams may have given up. So we'll get into that. But any buy low, sell high teams for the weekend here, maybe, or just kind of even until conference tournaments. I always like to do this, and I'll start with a sell high team. I think last week I said UCLA, and then they got bounced their very next game pretty bad by who was it? Purdue, and then they lost. Then they didn't cover against Northwestern, I think. So that was
they did cover by the half point, or it depends on what your lineup was, I guess.
Oh, yes,
Northwestern by 4.
4. Okay, yeah, he was right at the line. That's what it was. Okay. So, and I think they touched 4.5, but I don't know if they closed.
Oh, okay.
So that makes sense. Well, either way, they got bounced pretty bad against Purdue. But I'm going to sell one right now after they got their big win. Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is good. I don't think they're great. I think that they just don't rebound the ball as much as what you're going to need to in a tournament. The tournaments, the rims are different than home. You're a little bit away. But also, maybe I'll get into that game they're playing against your Gators coming up this week. But I'll sell a little bit high on Mississippi. What about
you? Well, it's more fading North Carolina State, but I guess I could say buy Miami low. But I want to know if Lynn Kidd is going to play. Their big man who's missed the last couple of games. But I'm looking to fade NC State on the road. It's our last chance. I mean, they've been so bad on the road. 0-10 straight up, 2-8 against the spread, and then they had 2 neutral site games. They lost by double digits. I don't know if that's not really a good example of buy low. Although Miami is awful. I was buying them low. I was fading the hell out of them for weeks, and then after I lost betting on Notre Dame, or at least I won the first half of that game. After that, they covered a couple more, and then I took them against Pitt and FSU, and I won. So that was when I was buying Miami low. But now they haven't gone 0-4 against the spread their last 4, so maybe that does work, buying them low, but it's really just fading NC State on Saturday.
No, that makes total sense. Fade them. And that's if they're that bad away, maybe Miami just for one more game decides to actually try, because there's a lot of times this year Miami didn't try. Maybe this is kind of that last rally spot for them, senior night. Not sure how many seniors are on that team, but definitely something to factor in. Now for buy low, man, buy low is kind of tough this late in the year because, man, it's really been figured out. UConn maybe, and I used them like a month ago, and I was kind of wrong about them, but I mean, UConn just won again and against Marquette, and they're just kind of dangerous, man. It's still Dan Hurley. He's kind of a head case this year. It's not the same defense at all that we've seen through the past, but it would shock you if they won their tournament, and it wouldn't shock me.
No. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me either.
I mean, right, 37th on KenPom, and they're the returning back-to-back champions. Maybe they make the Sweet 16 this year, but I'll go with them.
So high. I'm perusing the board, and I'm blanking on so high right now.
We can come back to it.
Okay.
Let's come back to it, and let's get into some big games for the weekend then. So we kind of picked 3 apiece, then we'll do some hodgepodge. First game is Colorado State versus Boise State, and I'm predicting Boise State's going to be laying about 5 at home, hopefully 5. Total is going to be around 137. This game is more of a splits for home road splits. Boise ranks 5th in home away splits, so great at home, and Colorado State ranks 355th. So Colorado State is on a nice run, but they're kind of run. They had fortunate that they got to run through kind of the bad part of the Mountain West, in my opinion. And the Mountain West isn't what it was the last 3-4 years, because San Diego State is so down, right? And I think that's the big problem with the Mountain West is they don't have that one team that's kind of scary. And San Diego State just made the final game a couple of years ago. But Boise State's sitting there and looking to get a nice little revenge spot against Colorado State because they went to Colorado State and lost a close one, 75-72. There's actually a lot of points that game when they played each other, and the pace was actually around 63. So think about that. They scored 157 points with only 63 possessions. That's an efficient game. So that just shows you how efficient Colorado State was. But Colorado State does not rebound well on the offensive side of the ball, and I don't think Colorado State can win. So they can improve their seed much. I think that Boise gets to the free throw line a hell of a lot more than Colorado State, which is big at home. Colorado State ranks 286, I should say, as free throws attempted to field goals attempted. Nice little ratio there. And Boise State ranks 29th. Otherwise, these are pretty identical teams, but it's the rebound and the free throws, I think, that's going to get me past the 5 points. And I'll take Boise State -5, Brian.
I've seen a bet online. They have 5 and a hook, but I agree. I like Boise. They have won, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row at home by margins of 22, 41, 10, 22, 17, 8, and 17. And yeah, you're right. Their home away dichotomy is big time this year. And yeah, I'm all about Boise -5.5 tomorrow. Senior night for Tyson Degenhart, who's had a hell of a career. And I think Boise will cash in tomorrow as a single-digit favorite.
Tyson Degenhart is always what I think of when I look at
I like that.
Us D-Gens, my man, betting on Boise State.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, they have 3 starting seniors, actually, so that's even kind of sweetens it up here, Brian, for us on this day. Ken Pom only has 4. I understand that they're going to get more home court, and that's why you're looking at a look-ahead line of 5.5. I like this up to 6. I'm hoping it's 5. Colorado State actually can. They lost away to New Mexico, right? And I think they lost 2 games to New Mexico. So no matter what, they can't move past the 2 seed. So they will get the 2 seed, or maybe Boise sneaks ahead of them if Boise wins this game and get a 3 seed. But are you going to play your ass off for a 3 seed? No, I don't think so, because you're going to get a 3 seed. I don't think there's going to be much of a difference there. So that's my thoughts. Let's move on to a little Saturday slate here. Georgia Tech versus Wake Forest is the one you picked, and you got Wake. I'm going to say Wake Forest -6. Total is going to be around 140. What do you have on this game that you selected?
I like Georgia Tech a lot in this game. I mean, it is the very weak-ass SEC, but ACC, sorry. Georgia Tech is playing good ball right now. They have won 7 of their last 9. They have covered or they've won 3 in a row, both straight up and ATS. And their last 2 wins have been by 40 combined points. They beat Miami by 15 at home and beat NC State by 25. There's another example of NC State being atrocious on the road, as we noted earlier. And, let's see, going back even further, Georgia Tech 8-3 ATS in their last 11. And let's see, as underdogs, 5-1 against the spread with 4 outright wins in their last 6. And Wake Forest is just not playing good ball right now. They've failed to cover in 4 straight, and they lost outright in 3 of those. Lost by 12 at NC State, lost by 33 at Duke, and the one outright win, they beat. I know Notre Dame won last night, but Notre Dame's been awful the past 5 or 6 weeks. And they only beat them. Yeah, so bad. Only beat them. In fact, I didn't even notice Notre Dame on the board yesterday, fortunately, because I would have faded them. And I noticed them looking at the finals this morning. I was like, wait, I didn't see Notre Dame, because they're toward the top of my fade list. But good thing I didn't notice that game. I think I was dialed into Florida, Alabama, and the SEC slate. But anyhow, Wake is not playing good ball. Georgia Tech is playing good ball. I would like Georgia Tech at 4 or more. Hopefully I'll be getting 6 or more. and I'll have a little taste of Georgia Tech on the money line as well. And they got one of their better players back. Wait, okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Let's see. Yeah, they got McCollum back the other night in the win over Miami. Oh, wait.
McCollum didn't play against Miami.
I thought I see he didn't play. I thought I saw on Twitter that he had gotten upgraded.
I think he might be upgraded for this game though. So okay. I'll check that out again. I thought I saw that. So
anyway, they played good without him, so it doesn't change my handicap. I was just going to the box score because I thought I'd seen on Twitter the other night that he was going to play, but apparently not. So, nevertheless, give me the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, man. My problem with the spot is Wake Forest has got their fucking ass kicked, man. I mean, when you go to Cameron Indoor, you get your ass kicked this year, I guess, and that's what everyone has been going through. But they did lose 3 of the last 4. The good thing about Georgia Tech is that they have a very good 2-point defense. They're a good down low defense, especially if some of the guys are healthy, right? I mean, Georgia Tech. No team in the ACC has taken as many injuries as this 4 team has early in the season this year. They lost a 7-2 guy, Ryan Matumbo. They lost Dorian, I don't even know how to say his name, Owachakiwa, another 6'11" guy. And it's just like, even though they lost those guys, they still have some guys that are down low. So it feels like they recruit from Africa, man. If you look at it, straight from Africa. They skip all the BS in the AAU leagues and all that, right? But what's cool is that Wake Forest doesn't shoot threes. They rank 356 in threes, so they're shooting a lot of twos, and that's kind of into Georgia Tech's strength. So if you look at it from a metrics perspective, so Georgia Tech actually matches up pretty well against old Wake Forest here. So I don't disagree. I'm just not sure about the spot yet. I'll take a stronger look at it though. And man, if he's back, McCollum, and then that might be a play on for me too. Let's move on to the next one. I picked. No, you got this one. UK, Kentucky versus Missouri. I put 4.5. I think that's where you're going to see it. -4.5 for Missouri. Total is 170. Brian, you picked this one. I'm pissed at myself for not betting Kentucky against LSU the other day. I did go a nice 4-0 yesterday, but Kentucky destroyed LSU on Tuesday, and it was just a terrible spot for LSU. I believe Jackson Robinson still is out.
He's out for the year.
Is he? Because he tried to play against Oklahoma. I guess he couldn't.
He re-injured it, and he had season-ending surgery last Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah.
So
was it a shoulder? Was it a shoulder?
It was a wrist, I believe.
Wrist, okay. Because Lamont Butler is then the one with the shoulder ache in him.
Right, yes. Butler, the San Diego State transfer that hit those clutch free throws against Creighton Elite Eight, that's the one with the shoulder. And he's back now in the last 2 or 3 games. I'll mention that LSU was missing 2 of its top 4 players at Rupp the other night. Not to take away from Kentucky. They put it on them really good. But I made Missouri 6. I knew it was going to – I knew it was not going to be that high. And actually, I made these lines before last night's results. So, but I'm not – I know Missouri played bad last night, but – and they got to tighten up defensively. They've not played good defense here over the last couple of weeks. But I love Missouri in this spot. Bounce back mode or double bounce back mode, right? And I have an 80-1 ticket on Missouri, by the way. That I think they're capable of beating anybody on any given night, and they are just dynamite at home. 18-1 straight up, 11-8. ATS, but a lot of those non-covers were laying big numbers in non-conference play. They beat South Carolina by 30 in their last home game. The game before that at home, they beat Bama by 12. The game before that, they beat Oklahoma by 24. They did have the hiccup. Taylor made the late shot to beat Missouri at Mizzou. That's their only outright loss at home. But before that, they beat Ole Miss by 8 at home. Before that, they beat Arkansas by 18 at home. Before that, they beat Vandy by 9 at home. Before that, LSU, they beat by 16 at home. They have a 9-point win over Kansas back in non-con. So at 6 or less, and it's not going to be 6, it's going to be lower than that. I like Mizzou, but I also made the total 175, and I like the over as well. Both of these teams have plenty of bucket makers, and Kentucky doesn't play very good D, and Missouri hasn't played very good D here recently. I know that's a high number, but I've been playing overs on a lot of high numbers on Kentucky and Alabama and Missouri, and I like it anyway. So I think the over in Missouri are the plays, and I'll be on both.
All right. Well, I think we'll get a better line, and I do agree with that. And Kentucky, 354th away from home is their home road splits. They're a different team away from home. Sometimes you don't know who's showing up for Kentucky when they're on the road. Kentucky at this point, man, are they really thinking about, oh my God, I can move up in the SEC a spot or two? No, I don't think so. I think that they got the big win, easy win, let's just say, against LSU, and they're going to start thinking about the tournaments, and maybe this is a time. If it's me, if I'm Pope, I'm not playing Butler. Why play Butler right now? I mean, why let him rest, man? Let that show.
Well, maybe get his conditioning back a little bit.
But he's been playing like a couple games.
Well, it depends on how much the shoulder's bothering him, actually. So.
I guess it would fall to 500 if they lose 9-8, which is they're probably going to lose anyway. But what kind of seed can they get? Because the next team up is Texas A&M. Let's just say they go 10-8. I mean, you got to hope that A&M, Ole Miss, Missouri, they're all 10-7. Maybe it steals Missouri's spot, but it's not going to give you the double bye in the SEC anyway. You're going to be playing that day no matter what, and it doesn't freaking matter which team you're playing, man, because it's all a big mix after Auburn and Florida, Bama and Tennessee, in my opinion. And you can even kind of maybe nudge up Auburn and Florida a little bit higher than the next two, in my opinion. So I know that's music to your ears, Brian. I'm not brown nosing. I do feel that.
let me give you a little side remark. Just because I agree that Florida or Auburn are a little bit ahead, but I think if I'm an Alabama fan today, there is no reason to panic whatsoever. I loved Oates' quotes post game, and let's remember now, Alabama went 2-4 in their last 6 last year, and they still went to the Final Four and gave UConn their toughest test in the Final Four, and that was a misleading final, by the way, 86-7. Alabama cut that deficit to like 4 with like 2.5 minutes left. They not only did Bama go 2-4 their last 6 last season before the Final Four run, they lost by 14 to Florida at the SEC tournament. They lost by 18 to Florida in Gainesville. They lost by 7 at home to Tennessee, and they lost by 22 at Kentucky. That was from February 24th and beyond. And they righted the ship and got to the Final Four. So if I'm a Bama fan, I wake up today, there's no need to hit the panic button. Look who you lost to. Huh?
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, they lost 4 of 6 right now. Anna said they lost 4 of 6 to the end last year. But, I mean, you lose at home to Florida, who's number 4 in Ken Palm. You lose by 3 at Tennessee when you got hosed by the refs in the last minute. And that they're number 5 in Ken Palm. And you lost at Missouri. They're 18-1 at home. And you lost at home to Auburn, number 2. I mean, it's not like Alabama forgot how to play basketball. I think Alabama's going to be fine, and I still think they have a really good chance to get the Final Four.
Absolutely, they do. They were my pick in January. I'm still going to, I'll have a bracket with Alabama, but they're not my favorite anymore. It's really Duke, in my opinion, but I will have Alabama up there. I almost think Auburn's a little bit lower than Florida to me. I have it Duke, Florida, Auburn, but whatever. I think everybody's a little bit mixed.
So hold on. Let me ask you this. So it's a pick'em game, and they're playing in Los Angeles tomorrow. Florida and Duke. You're betting on Duke?
They're playing in Los Angeles. Why?
Oh, I don't know. All right, they're playing in Topeka, Kansas.
Okay. Yeah, I am picking Duke, but it's not going to be. it's not going to be easy. Well,
Not
there's a problem.
picking. Are you betting? Not picking. Are you betting?
No, I probably won't bet the
Okay.
game. I'll enjoy it with some popcorn. I'll bet the over.
Okay.
Can I bet the over?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'll do that.
Absolutely.
I'll do that, my man. You know, Duke has just been a little bit better away from home, and I know they have that one loss against Clemson. And if you want to talk about early in November, then the Kentucky or whatever the hell they lost to, then yeah, whatever. I'm not going back that far. I think Duke has just been better away from home. Florida can get a little nervy. I was on Florida last Saturday when they smoked A&M, and it kept getting back down to 9 points, and I think I was laying 8.5. It closed around 10, and I was like, stay above 8, baby, and they did. You know, and A&M was desperate, and all of a sudden, what does A&M do? They freaking bounce Auburn, man. So that was fun. What a nice.
Did you have? I mistakenly played Auburn the other night, and I felt like full afterward. I feel like from a gambling perspective, we should have all seen that coming. Look ahead to Bama, and A&M was just desperation mode, and Auburn had just clinched the SEC with just a lights out performance at Rupp Arena. I think we should have all seen that coming. Well, I'm the guilty party. I had Auburn. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Did you have Auburn?
Yeah. I had Auburn. I had Kentucky, and so my rule is if I seen a flaw in the team and they screwed me over, I'm not going to go bet on them. You know, the next game. But I thought to myself, it's A&M or nothing. But I couldn't want to bet against them either because I don't want to lose twice in a row off the same fade. But you know, I saw this coming too, and but I'll tell you this: there was a point where A&M was only up 6 with 12 minutes left, or 6 or 7, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. And
right.
but A&M, you know, Buzz Williams called the timeout and got his team back together. And the desperation with this team you could see, because after losing 4 games in a row for a team like the Aggies, man, yeah, they got their shit together. And it reminded me a little bit of how they ran in the tournament to I think the Elite Eight last year, looking so good, you know, looking really good on the boards. But all they have is throw up the ball and go rebound it and lay it in. That's literally their game at A&M, and if they can get in a lot of trouble if they're in free throw contention because they're bad at free throws. If it's like a 1 or 2 point game at the end, and they can be in a lot of trouble too if they go against a team that's really hot and they're just not hitting. You know, just a team that is on fire. So the A&M won't go far in my brackets, but that was definitely a terrible spot for Auburn. Let's move on to the next game. Wisconsin, my man. I got the hat and I got the bet because they're going to be laying 12, buddy, at least 12, 13. It's not going to matter here, and I'll tell you why. This is a terrible spot for Penn State because Penn State is freaking toast. They're out of everything. They're out of the Big Ten tournament. They're out of the NCAA tournament. I mean, they're not going to be playing for no, you know, NIT or anything. This Penn State team.
Oh, this is their last game of the year, huh?
This is their last game of the year. And in
the thing is, they played pretty good the last 2 weeks.
They tried the last few weeks, but those 2 losses against Indiana and Maryland is what took them out, because even if they win, they have the tie loss against Iowa because they lost to Iowa. And so they have 2 more losses right now than everybody else. Technically, some have 2 more games, but I think they might be mathematically out. And by the time this game happens on Sunday, they're going to be out. And Wisconsin they beat Minnesota on a poor performance. They were missing all kinds of threes left and right, and they were taking way too freaking many of them. They were in 21st attempt at 3. But senior night now with Wisconsin, you got Tanji's a super senior, not really a Badger, but I guess, you know, when a team likes you and the fans like you, then you feel like you're part of them. Klesmit's a senior, Kral's a senior, Kamari McGee, who comes off the bench that looks so tiny. I doubt he's really 6 feet tall. I think he's like shorter than me, but he's a senior. Carter Gilmore is a senior. They're going to have a hell of a senior night here. And the problem with this game, if you're thinking Penn State, Wisconsin needs to win this to still be a 4 seed. They need to move to the double bye. So Wisconsin can be very motivated, and this is going to be a part where Penn State's just going to probably crumble. And Penn State's got nothing to play for. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Penn State tries from the beginning, like most teams do. But once they start getting blown out, the defense kind of disappears, and they look forward to hanging out that night. So I'm going to be on Wisconsin.
Yeah, this is going to be a pass for me. I just think Penn State's played a little feisty. I feel like oh yeah, did I have? Yeah, I know what it was where Penn State impressed me is they jumped all over Nebraska early, and I took some live bet positions on Nebraska as a double-digit underdog because I had just done that in Nebraska's previous game when they rallied against Northwestern that Sunday afternoon. And so that strategy had done me right. And so I just kept chasing Nebraska live bets against Penn State. I did hit my biggest one, which was plus 18.5, barely. But it was a big-time loser for me that game. And that's when I was like, dang, Penn State had been playing awful leading up to that. But then they go to Minnesota and they win at the barn. And then they covered at Indiana. And they have 4 and a hook against Maryland. So, yeah, they've covered some games here recently. And they schooled my ass in that Nebraska game 2 Wednesdays ago. So I'm not fading Penn State, but I'm not backing them either. It's just a pass for me. We got a big menu Saturday, so.
Yeah, if you look at their last away games, beside Indiana, they did put a performance up, but now it's out. But they lost to USC by like 30 points. They lost to UCLA by 24 points. I mean, they are just so bad away. They did fight well against Michigan, lost by 4. Iowa's a piece of junk team, so don't worry about that. But it's just kind of over for them, and it's just too good of a spot for Wisconsin to finish.
No, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just saying Penn State schooled me the other week.
I am taking Missouri with you. This is a podcast play, just by the way. I like that play also. I should have mentioned, but I like them minus 4.5, and I'd like them up to 5.5 myself. So I'll be on Missouri with you too. Let's move on to the next game. Oklahoma versus Texas. Texas about -3 at home. Total 153. This is a bubble burster game, my man. Bubble burst. These guys. This is so important to these teams. I still feel like Oklahoma is kind of in if they lose, but that's not the way they should approach this game. Same with Texas, obviously. Texas is at home. Funny thing about this, Texas did beat Oklahoma away this year. Texas kind of kicked my ass last game too, and I was like, I tried to fade them last game, and was it Mississippi State that shit their pants?
Yes.
Yeah. This Mississippi State defense just disappears, quicker than a snake in the hole, man. It's so crazy to watch how bad they can play. I mean, 325th ranking in opponent 3-point percentage. That's pretty piss poor. If it wasn't for the fact that they're with the free throw luck they're getting and the fact that they block some shots, this defense would be ranked a lot lower than 44th. But man, it's just letting Texas just abuse you like that at home. I also saw it's weird the way they beat Mississippi, Ole Miss twice. I was on them against Ole Miss. I tried to fade them against A&M. They're so weird, hot and cold. But man, going back to Oklahoma, Texas, I think you might have a play in this.
Yeah, so I'm looking to play the over here. The over is hit in 9 straight for Texas. Now, they did need overtime to get there in the Mississippi State game. Ken Palm's got it projected at 153. But, I'm more taking the over on account of Oklahoma is what's making me want to take the over. So they go over 160.5 last night with Missouri. That was 180 combined against Ole Miss. I mean, you got a game against a Chris Beard team, and you get to 171. And then the Kentucky game was a 165 on February 26th with Oklahoma, and then they had 180 with Mississippi State. So you just look at what Oklahoma is giving up defensively. All right, so they've given up 84 to Missouri, 87 to Ole Miss, 83 Kentucky, 87 Mississippi State, 85 Florida, 82 LSU, 82 Missouri, 98 Auburn. And then offensively, Jeremiah Fears is on a tear right now. The freshman guard, 31 last night. He had 27 against Mississippi State, had 18.6 assists against Kentucky. He only had 13 points, but he had 7 assists against Ole Miss. He had 22 against Florida. He's just playing really good. And I just think this is going to be a shootout. with Oklahoma and Texas, and I would probably play it all the way to 155. Now, when they met earlier in the year, they did only have 150, but I think both of the defenses are poor, and I think we'll go over 153 in this one.
I'm with you, man. The only thing that worries me is how important the game is. Usually, like a lot of times, you see the defenses really show up. But the truth is that Oklahoma is a very fast-paced team. They're 73rd in average possession length. Their offense is great. Their defense is not that good, and they turn the ball over, which is going to cause some fast breaks for Texas. And Texas is going to show up this game. They have to. It's their only chance. Texas can't guard the three well. They only rank 179th in guarding the three. I think Oklahoma's going to pop some threes, and Oklahoma shoots a decent amount of them. I think just based upon pace and poor defense, even if they try to play defense, I think that goes away. I'm with you on the over. I lean to that too. I'll probably take it. I wonder if we'll be lucky enough to get 153. I hope so. You never know with the market. The market can push it up pretty quick. And I will say SEC unders in general have been pretty good this year, though. SEC unders are going like you have a site like Haslametrics has it at 150. So maybe Bart Torvik would cooperate and try to knock that down for us.
That'd be nice
in the marketplace. Yeah, because I'm with you too. That's something I'm probably going to be on as well. And Bart Torvik has 152. So yeah, let's get 153 here, baby. Let's take that sucker over. Let's move on to the next game, and this is a Sunday game. And what's funny about this game is I'm not sure what I'm playing, if anything, in it. But I wanted to talk about it because this is kind of like a do or die situation too. Because Minnesota versus Rutgers. Rutgers is going to be about -5, I think -6. Total 143. They played tough against Wisconsin. It was more Wisconsin sucking that game. That final score, Wisconsin should have won by 10 or more. But this season's on the line for both of these teams too, because neither of them are – the loser's not going to make the Big Ten tournament. I think it's going to be the loss in this game that is next to Penn State and Washington in the Big Ten to not make the tournament. These teams are very similar on the way that they defend. They're good three-point shooting teams in general, but they just near the rim they get smoked, and that's the big problem with Minnesota. They lose a lot during the rim. Minnesota not the greatest finishing rim team, but one plays a little fast. Rutgers plays a little fast with those young kids, Harper and Ace Baldwin and all that. And then Minnesota's got the senior leadership. So I find it a fascinating game. I think Rutgers probably should be better than what they looked the last few weeks because they do have the 5-star talent. It's like, when's that going to kind of stick with this team? It hasn't, man. And now they're on the ropes to not make the Big Ten championship. Now, Rutgers fought pretty hard at Michigan. They only lost by 2 points. They got bounced by Purdue, but this is a pretty good spot for them. But it's laying 6. To be honest with you, man, I just wanted to talk about it because I can see Rutgers winning by a lot. I can see Minnesota fighting their ass off with the senior leadership that they have. There's only like one starting senior on Rutgers for senior night. I think it's Jeremiah Williams, and the rest of them. Tyson Acuff is a senior too, but he's a bench guy. This is mostly a team of freshmen and juniors and sophomores, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, Durkak, and all those. I'm not going to play this game, but I'm going to enjoy watching it just to see who doesn't make it, my man. If I had to lean, I'd probably lean to the seniors in Minnesota.
Yeah, I would probably lean to Minnesota as well. 5-4 straight up, 6-3 against the spread on the road, and the RAC has not been the formidable home court advantage as it has so often been in recent years. Hasn't been so much this year. So I would lean Minnesota as well.
Yeah. I'm just gonna. We'll give it a lean. Obviously, it gets up to 7 or something crazy. Then I could be a buyer on Minnesota. Well, let's do a little hodgepodge, man, because there's some massive games, and I'm gonna I'll tell you right now. I'm fading Ole Miss. I'm gonna lay the points with Florida, and I'm gonna have to lay 11 probably. But the truth is that Florida is still fighting for the 1 seed. They don't have it locked up in their minds, right? I think
Right.
I think the only people that have it locked up are Auburn and Duke for sure. But I don't think Florida in their mind has it locked up yet. And I think that they're going to have to finish strong. The thing about Ole Miss, they can't improve themselves that much. Like I mentioned before, Ole Miss sitting there at 10-7. How far can they move up? Tennessee's 11-6, and they're the 4 seed. But I don't see Tennessee losing. I'm sure they don't see Tennessee losing, and they also probably need like a Missouri or A&M. I have to look at the head-to-head. But this is just a spot where Ole Miss just got that big win against Tennessee, and it makes it just a big letdown spot for them. Florida, fantastic at home, just freaking fantastic. So I'll let you give us the numbers on Florida.
Yeah, so Florida 14-1 straight up at home, 11-4 against the spread. But I mean, Florida has just been giving out open hand pump slaps at home all year. So they beat A&M by 19 in their last home game, and then I'll just go in chronological order or reverse order, if you will. They beat Oklahoma by 22 at home. They beat South Carolina by 19 at home. They beat Vandy by 11 at home. That was with Elijah Martin out. They beat Georgia by 30 at home. They beat Texas by 24 at home. They beat Tennessee by 30 at home. Stetson by 40. North Florida by 54, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would lay but 14 would probably be the cutoff. But if it's 13 or fewer, that'll be a pretty decent size play for me. If it's like 11 or less, it would be a really strong play. And the Florida fan base has not had a lot to be happy about the last decade, other than the 2020 football season. We had a hell of a year up until the regular season finale. But and we went to the Elite Eight in 2017. But my point being, the city of Gainesville and this fan base is really flipping fired up for this team. And they will have a raucous crowd of 6 p.m. Eastern tip, plenty of time for the student body to be over there at the Salty Dog Saloon slamming beers pregame. And I think it'll be a ass beating.
You're gonna be at the salty. You're gonna be at the Salty Dog, you said?
I'm not going to be there, but a lot of the students will be there.
I was hoping you were going to be there because I wanted some pictures if you were. Walter Clayton Sr., Elijah Martin Sr.
Yep.
You got Will. Is it Will Richard?
Will Richard. Yeah, I mean that's three guys right there that are very beloved by the fan base, and they'll be out in force for those guys.
Yeah, I think so too. So I like it, man. We are in Florida. You have a game on Saturday. I was gonna move to one myself, unless you have one.
I do. It's way off the beaten path, but they all pay the same, right?
They all do. They
all pay the same. So I'm gonna point out a team to you from the SWAC that has been cashing tickets galore, and I'm from the Tallahassee area. The Florida A&M Rattlers, or a lot of people call them FAMU. They are 14-1 against the spread in their last 15 games. Their last 10 as an underdog. They're 9-1 against the spread with 5 outright wins. And according to KenPom, they are going to be a 5-point underdog to Bethune-Cookman on Saturday. And if that is the case, I will be all over the Rattlers. I have been betting on them pretty consistently for about 3 weeks, although I did not bet on them Monday when they covered as a 5.5-point home dog and a 3-point loss to Southern. They had lost to Southern by 44 back in early January, so that kind of scared me away. But they are going to cover, in my opinion, as a 5-point dog at Bethune-Cookman on Saturday. So there's my off the beaten path, out of nowhere play from the SWAC.
That is out of nowhere, my man. I love it. I love it. Look at that. You don't see any like matchup advantages for Bethune-Cookman. The only thing is really mid-range, but there's no 3-point advantage against the defense of Florida A&M. There's no near proximity advantage, and Not saying it's any on the other side too, but man, a team that's just motivated all the way to the end is kind of the team that I want to be on. So I'll be digging into that one later, man. Here's another.
The Rattler. Hey, the Rattlers have one of Shaq's sons. Just
there you go. Well, there you go. I'll probably be in Creighton -10 too. It's just lean. It's actually -9 on Ken Palm against Butler, but Creighton is also super senior with Ryan Kalkbrenner, Stephen Ashworth. You know, another big spot for them. They lost against Xavier away, and they did lose to UConn at home, but this is just too good of a senior night spot not to blow out a bad team like Butler. And Butler, away from home, lost to Nova by 10 points, lost to Xavier by 13 points away from home. They beat DePaul and Seton Hall, but those are just bottom feeders, you know. I mean, this is probably a spot where I'm going to want to lay it with Creighton. And I like laying points at the very end of the season like this because of all the reasons. You know, Butler probably mailing it in for their tournament because they had no chance to obviously do anything much for seeds or anything. So probably another spot where I'm liking it. You know, Georgia's an interesting team for me. Georgia has improved a lot. And when they're up by Florida, 24 points, I hedged back on Florida because I had Georgia +9 or something, 9.5. And I knew that, you know, I'm probably going to win that bet. But man, did Florida pull ahead by 1 point with a minute left. I took Florida plus something, 10, +8, something like that. And I hedged and I hit both sides of that one. But man, holy cow, did Florida come back. And that's Florida. Yeah, I mean, that is serious. But then watching the way Georgia went to Texas and I was on Georgia that game, they're trying to make sure that they're in the NCAA tournament. I wonder if in their minds that they think that they're in the NCAA tournament too, because I want to lay the points against Vanderbilt, who just lost, obviously, and Vanderbilt's trash on the road too. So I want to lay it with Georgia -5.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to play this game, but just back to the live betting on the Florida-Georgia game. Yeah, I jumped on the Gators at +9.5 and +14.5, but I also jumped on them +312 money line and +725 money line. So it was nearly a really good one for me there. But yeah, Georgia's in great form right now. But I think they definitely need to win one more to not be stressing all day on Sunday or next Sunday, Selection Sunday. I think they definitely need to get one more to feel comfortable. And so anywho, they've been outstanding at home all year, as I just had their home stats in front of me. Now there they are again. 14-3 straight up, 11-6 against the spread. And as you've noted, Vandy has lost 6 of 9 road assignments. With all that said, I'm not looking to fade Vandy, especially in bounce back mode. I know they haven't been. I think Georgia wins the game. I just don't know that I want to lay 5. And you know, maybe the market would push it higher because Georgia's on a little mini heater here the last 2 weeks. It started with that the real competitive loss at Auburn where they covered 2 Saturdays ago.
Right. It did. They are in a heater, and I'm going to keep it going. So I'll make Georgia -5 a play for the podcast too. So, you know, beer bet bangers, any long shots that you see yourself taking? Now, I don't love a lot of long shots usually this time of year. God, you got Baylor against Houston at home, and Baylor needs it. You know, it's interesting looking at them. God, there's some ugly dogs out there, man. LSU, can they get one more at home and against A&M?
I would just keep an eye on the injury report tomorrow night. The SEC injury report comes out at 8 Eastern on the SEC website, and 2 of LSU's top 4 players were out at Kentucky, but they weren't like listed out. They were listed as doubtful going in. So I'm guessing that maybe they have a shot to be back on Saturday. And if so, LSU was playing okay there for, you know, they covered some numbers there for a minute. just haven't played terrible ball the last 2 or 3 weeks, but they were just shorthanded the other night. I know it's not what you're talking about in terms of like a long shot in terms of money line underdog, but I will say this just because it matches just the long shot odds of a bet. I think Clemson's worth a future bet at 60 to 65 to 1. They're now 25-5 straight up, 19-11 against the spread, but 3 of their 5 losses have been in overtime. And their other 2 L's are at Louisville, no shame, and at Boise, which I don't think is much shame there. I mean, across the country into altitude. They've won 7 in a row on the road, 5 wins by double digits on the road. And the Tigers are 13-1 straight up, 11-3 against the spread their last 14. I'm sorry, I said 7 in a row on the road. I meant they've won 7 in a row, just regardless of venue. They've won 8 in a row on the road, 6 by double-digit margins, and they've got that win over Duke. So, and look, when you got a number like 60 to 65 to 1, the goal is really just Elite 8, so because you can monetize it from there with some hedges to make sure you make a profit. So I'm not saying Clemson's going to win it all, but they do have Elite 8 experience, and they've got a lot of veterans, a lot of key players from last year's Elite 8 team that lost a heartbreaker to Alabama. So I think Clemson's worth a long shot future bet.
I agree with you. Clemson is the only other team. Well, Louisville actually, and we've already talked about Louisville, and I did give out future on Louisville a while ago. But Clemson's got the pedigree because they went all the way to the Elite 8 last year, or was it Final Four? I think it was
Elite 8. Elite 8.
Yeah, they lost to Bama. Yeah, so that was a wonderful little run for Clemson, and so they got the pedigree as well. I'm going to go with Kansas State to upset Iowa State at home.
I could get on board with that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
All right, my man. Coleman Hawkins is back now, and he played last game, and they bounced Cincinnati on the road, man, and now they're coming home. Senior night, you got a bunch of seniors on this K-State team besides Coleman Hawkins, which is a transfer from Illinois, but David Gustafson, or I don't even know how to say his name. I don't say it too often. Max Johnson. Go ahead.
Gasson.
Yeah, it starts with an N. And
I know it's silent. It's silent.
Yeah. Gasson, David Gasson. Thank you. And then a couple other guys, and I think that they're a right to upset Iowa State, who is a very, very poor road team in general. So K-State, baby, you're going to probably get plus 220 or something like that, plus 250, because you're probably looking at KenPom has it. They're going to be 5-point dogs. I think they'll probably be 3.5. Or something like that. So I'll be on K-State money line for my dog time went outright. We got to do some UFC, man. Don't want to blow that
I love that. I love that pick on K-State, but I had them on the money line last night. Well, I mean, more on them +9, but I love that pick. Good call on your part.
Thank you, boss. Thank you. All right. Well, hey, man, this is a fun UFC event, UFC 313, which is in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. And it's pretty good card. It's not like UFC 300 was, but it's solid because you got Magomed Ankalaev, who's been waiting his life for a title fight against Alex Pereira. So I know you have a play in this, Brian. So what do you got for the title?
Yeah, I like Pereira. You think Ankalaev's going to try to wrestle him?
I'll get into my side.
Okay.
I'll just answer. I don't know. I think he should.
Yeah.
I think he's an idiot because he doesn't do it all the time. So
Right.
I think that's my problem. But I was going to talk about that. But
Okay, we're here. I'll just get mine. I worry that Ankalaev, because I think Ankalaev's got a much better ground game, but he doesn't seem to use it all that much. But anyhow, I think if it stays standing, Pereira is going to eat his ass alive. And I know Ankalaev has been going through Ramadan and it's been fasting in the afternoon. That can't be good. I know he's not going to do that this week for the weight cut, but that can't be good for his training camp. I know Cormier made a big deal about Pereira. Where was he? Australia a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "You need to get your ass in training camp, dude. Quit overlooking this guy." But look, even if Ankalaev tries to wrestle him, Pereira's got. mean, he wrestles with Glover every day. I mean, he's got pretty good takedown defense. I like Pereira. He has got a 5-fight winning streak, and I think he makes it 6. And this is a cheap price on him, in my opinion.
You know, and I thought the same when I think I bet Jan Blachowicz against him. And John, I understand the split decision and losing it, but I also thought that John could have won it. But I think he's gotten better since then, you know?
Yeah.
He fought Yuri twice. Yuri tries to take him down and just gets elbowed in the head the first match, and then he gets kicked in the face the second. I love Yuri, but Yuri just chickens out when he sees the bigger man. And it's anti-samurai Yuri to do that. I don't know what the hell your problem is, but I love standing on Yuri. I don't think the UFC wants Magomed to be the champ. I don't think he's the moneymaker. I think Magomed is boring AF. You know, just not the kind of fighter you want to see on top. I mean, 10 KOs against Bad, but 9 decisions. And that's how he fights, man. He usually, unless he's fighting glass jaw Johnny Walker, right? He's going to decision against Jan Blachowicz. He's going to decision against Thiago Santos. Even Alexander Rakic comes in there with his broken body and makes it to decision with Magomed. He's just so boring. And Magomed should be wrestling at times, and he's not. But I think Alex Pereira is just too big almost to get down, too. Now, Pereira has got the better chance of knocking out because Magomed isn't, you know, that he doesn't knock out much, right? And they call him, you know, Dagestani wrestler. You don't see it ever. You know, that's the problem. But I do think he does have the tools. In the third round, if it gets that far, to wear Alex Pereira up. But this is a 5-round fight. You know, it'd be a 3rd, 4th, and 5th that he would have to wrestle. But I don't see Ankalaev. I think the fact that it's Ramadan's a big distraction too.
Right.
Magomed doesn't lose much. He was a draw against Jan Blachowicz, but dude, I'm not playing it. I see your side, and I think the UFC wants Pereira to stay. Now, if you can say that influences judges, that's a whole different conversation. But I probably would lean a very small lean to Ankalaev, but only because he's minus 105. It's, you know, I think Pereira does win, actually, you know, but he's minus 115. I have a coin flip exactly right. Magomed's got to get his head out of his you-know-what, but this is also in America. It's not like it's in Abu Dhabi. So not a real disagreement on my side. I'm just kind of neutral, dude.
Sure.
Next fight, I'll give you one. See if you line up with me. And Ignacio Bahamondes is fighting. And he's fighting a very scary opponent himself because this dude's a badass, Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner's huge for his weight class. You look at this guy and you're like, how the hell is he 155 pounds, right? He's a massive striker in the first round. He's also submitted some guys in the past. Now, I actually like Ignacio Bahamondes because of a few things. I think it gets to the second round. Ignacio actually outstrikes Jalen Turner on average, 7.17 significant strikes landed per minute. Jalen's actually 5.6. I'm not worried about the ground. I don't think either of them would go to the ground, although I would give Jalen Turner a slight advantage on the ground. But the thing with Ignacio Bahamondes, he's just as tall, just about, I think slightly shorter than Jalen Turner. So he's also got that big body size, and he's got the better gas tank. So that's the reason I'm liking Ignacio Bahamondes at minus 130. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I like Jalen Turner in this fight as a plus 110 dog, but I've got a couple other plays as well. Now, Turner's in a slump here, 1-3 in his last 4, but it was a split decision against Hooker on that loss, and that was a great fight. That was a fantastic fight. That fight wasn't fight of the night. Oh, because Turner missed weight, so they couldn't get fight of the night. I was like, how the hell was that not fight of the night? And then he lost to Gamrot, a split decision. I mean, those are Gamrot's. They're both top 10 guys, borderline top 5, right? I don't even know where Hooker is.
Gamrot was top 5 for a while, but
yeah, I was thinking so as well. And then the Moicano fight. I mean, he dropped Moicano, but Moicano is such a savage, dude, and he got right back up. Like Jalen knocked it. I thought it was a walk-off knockout, and Moicano just jumped right back up. And then, but Moicano's a wrestler, and so that's his kryptonite. And Bohemondez is not going to try to take him to the ground. It's going to be a stand-up fight. And if it's a stand-up fight and I get Turner as an underdog, I think I take him against anybody that's not in the top 5. And so, but look, also, I think that, and you pointed this out when we were in the green room, so to speak, Turner does have some gas tank issues. And so therefore, I think under 1.5 rounds could be a winner regardless of who wins. And it's got plus 140 odds. So I'm going to do under 1.5 plus 140. And then I'm going to take a shot with Turner. Let's see, to win in round 1 is plus 400. To win inside the distance is plus 175 at DraftKings. I would be good with either one of those bets. Now, if you're going for the plus 400 round 1, make it a really small bet. But those are my thoughts on this one. I think one of them gets the other out of there pretty early, hence the one under 1.5. And I like Turner as a small dog. And I think if he wins, there's a great chance it'll be via first round knockout.
I like what you're thinking there. Maybe a fight doesn't start round 3 either, you know.
What's the number on that?
I'm going to find it right now. I got to pull it up on DK. That's what DK likes to serve. Let's see here. Fight to start round 2 is minus 340. Fight to start round 3. No is minus 115. So it's like, yeah, plus 140, or you want the 2.5 minutes. I'd be safe with the no and just say it ends in a second. I think that's a good hedge too if you like either side, because KO is minus 160 as it is, right? So I like what you're thinking there. I think I'm going to be on that too. So we'll look at that one. Next one. Why don't you give me your next play that you have?
Okay, this is a small opinion because you never know when Father Time's going to catch these guys, and normally you're midway through the first round of one of their fights, and you look at your buddy and you say, Father Time finally got him, you know. and it's going to happen. It's going to happen to my boy Gaethje at some point, but I just don't think quite yet. He is 36. He's getting up there. He's off a vicious knockout loss, but he went 6 months without training. It's nearly got a year in. He's got 11 months almost, or he's just like a week shy of 11 months since the Holloway knockout. He trains with Usman every day. He's got one of the better coaches, if not the best coach in MMA. And we just watched him bust Fiziev up and whip his ass in the second and third round of their fight at MSG 2 years ago. And since then, Fiziev fought, I want to say it was like 4 months later, and he lost and he tore his ACL, and he hasn't fought since. But, you know, it's been healthy and wanting to fight here for several months. But he got the call on, what was it, 13 days or 14 days notice, and he's a big lightweight. So I would imagine his weight was up a decent amount. Now, maybe he said that this week at the presser and I missed it. But and then he had to travel all the way across the world. So I imagine this is a pretty tough weight cut for him. And obviously he's got the revenge angle. But we're getting like plus 135, plus 140 on Gaethje. I got to go with my boy Gaethje on this one. But again, it's not a big opinion.
No disagreement. Why is he the dog when he just touched him up so bad? It's just because he came off that knockout.
I think that's the only reason, and the age thing, I guess.
The knockout heard around the world, my man. And that was the 5th round, though. This is a 3-round fight, man. You know, this is not a 5-round fight. I don't understand what's going on here. I know Fiziev did pretty good in the first couple rounds against Gaethje. Then Gaethje turned it on. Maybe that's the thought process. But I would much rather take the dog in Gaethje here if I had to take a side. And I lost on Fiziev. I was on Fiziev that fight and just lost, you know, and I changed my mind. But one thing I won't change my mind on is this fight goes to decision at plus 100, man. I think that both of them last. And I know that, you know, Fiziev has his issues not fighting in a year and a half, whatever it was. And then Gaethje obviously off the KO. But the KO was 11 months ago, dude. 11 months ago, okay? And if it was 4 months ago or 3 months ago, I'd be a little bit more worried about it. But it's 11 months. These two guys are, you know, middleweight guys, lightweight guys at 155, middle of the UFC, I should say. I think this goes to decision, man. I think that Gaethje can touch him up again. And I think Gaethje's smart enough to fight this guy because Fiziev does not have reach. I think Fiziev is going to struggle with that, and that's why I see Fiziev, losing again, most likely. I would much rather take the dog here, but I really like the fight going to decision. I don't see no knockouts here, and I don't think that Gaethje's going to let himself get KO'd again like that. So you're looking at 5'11" and 5'8" are the heights. You got a 3-inch for Justin Gaethje, and his legs are definitely longer.
And let me make one more other point about the Max fight with Gaethje. Max landed that incredible spinning back kick right. I mean, so Gaethje was right in the nose and busted his nose up big time at the end of the first round. And Gaethje was compromised the rest of the fight. He was having trouble breathing. I mean, when you get your nose broken and you got to fight Max Holloway for 4 more rounds, that's a pretty tall task. So once that happened, I mean, you knew Max had the upper hand the rest of that fight. So a nice fresh start here with Gaethje. I think he's still got a couple good fights left in him. And he thinks if he wins this fight, he's right back in the mix for another title shot. So Gaethje's the side for me.
All right. Sounds good, Gaethje. I totally agree with that, and I'll take fight goes to decision plus 100. And it's -2.5 is like -140 or so, or 130. So that's not the worst look either. I think it's 130. I have another one, and I'm going to go to the women here, and it's going to be on the main card. You have Yasmin Lucindo against Amanda Lemos. Okay. Now here's the thing. Amanda Lemos has been around the block for a while. She's plus 115. Yasmin is -135. But I think I'm going to look at a prop in this. The thing about this fight is Amanda Lemos can strike with Yasmin. Yasmin is definitely the younger one of the bunch, and she's probably about the hungrier one. Amanda's kind of just, doing her thing, making her money. I like Amanda Lemos, and she's paid some bills for me for a while, but she does not have the ground game I think that's going to take to win this. Now, Lemos, she's been subbed 2 times before. She just got subbed against Burma, but that doesn't mean, I think that almost means she's going to be a little bit more guarded against it. I think this goes to decision too. I think that Yasmin will win this fight on the ground in the 2nd and 3rd round, and you're going to get her by decision. So I got the favorite, which is -130, -135, -140, but I got it at plus 140 on FanDuel that Yasmin Lucindo wins by decision. And not a big play, a star I'm going to put on this. If you look at strength of schedule, I'll definitely give it to Amanda Lemos. But this ain't like her first fight here. Lucindo's fought 6 or 7 UFC bouts before coming from Brazil. So she's definitely paid her due. She just beat Marina Rodriguez in a split decision, who I also think is better than Amanda Lemos at 37-year-old at her place. So I'm going to go with Yasmin by decision, my man.
Right on. That's all I've got. Those 3 plays at the top of the card is all I've got for UFC this weekend. All
right, me too. But I'll have more for premiums. I have a couple I'm leaning on, but one I want to bring up real quick, I think, is the Blades fight, right? The undercard main event, right? The prelims main event. Curtis Blades is fighting, but it makes me wonder how invested he is, because you're looking at Curtis Blades as a massive favorite here, -360. Well, not massive, -360. You got plus 270 on Rizvan Kuniev. And Kuniev's from Georgia or Russia, one of the two. Blades is the bigger dude, the meaner dude. But I've seen Blades just crawl up in shells before, man. I don't know what we're going to get out of Blades here. And I'm not saying I'm going to bet Rizvan Kuniev, because I shit as hell don't know much about him, right? But I do know that I definitely don't want to be on Blades. And this could be a spot if I can learn a little bit more about his opponent, who, has won all of his fights since 2015 anyway. He's 32 years old, but, he's been moving up in the ranks. And, he seems to be the size matches up with Curtis Blades. I mean, Blades messes up a lot. Blades can get KO'd. This is one that I would say maybe Kiev by KO. Maybe you get what, plus 600, plus 170. I'm not saying I'm doing it, but have you looked at this one?
Well, I just haven't seen Kiev fight. I mean, I'm looking at his page right now, and yeah, like you said, he hasn't lost in like a decade, but only 2 Dana White Contender Series fights, but both knockouts. But I mean, I completely agree with your whole premise that Blades at this point in his career shouldn't be that big of a favorite. But again, I just haven't seen the other guys. So I mean, maybe I could break out some YouTube clips, and if he impresses me, maybe I would think about it. But again, I agree with your premise, but I can't get there just because of my lack of knowledge of the other guy.
Yeah, man, it makes total sense. I'm just kind of keeping this in mind. Maybe on a good, you're rolling a little bit on your day, and you say, okay,
sure,
well,
once we go undefeated on the hoops card, and we have a few beers late Saturday night. No, I hear you, buddy.
Oh man, that's going to be a great, hopefully a great decision. And what else is a great decision is following this man, Mr. Brian Edwards, all over the radio on the East Coast, SEC Life, man. Brian, tell our listeners where they can get your great information, please.
Man, they can go to Twitter. There's my handle at VegasBEdwards. They can get my writing and whatnot at majorwager.com, and they can get more of my like podcast radio stuff like I'm doing with you here at Southeastern 16. Subscribe on YouTube to the Southeastern 16 channel. I do a podcast once a week, a year round with those guys, and then I jump in on some of their other shows. And starting next week, we're going to be doing more than one podcast a week, just with the March Madness flavor going on. So, yeah, follow the YouTube channel Southeastern 16. It's all SEC stuff. I mean, I throw in my UFC picks and stuff at the end of the show. Yeah, thanks for having me as always, Kiev, and good luck to your Badgers. Maybe we'll be hanging out in San Antonio in about a month.
Oh, that would be a hell of a lot of fun, Brian. Well, I drove there last year. Maybe I'll fly this time. Make sure you guys check out my man, Brian Edwards.